Hi folks, I'm Craig Taylor, and as always a huge thanks for joining me here on my YouTube channel, the Bushcraft Padawan. The shortest route between 2 points is in a straight line. At least it is mathematically speaking. However, the shortest route between 2 points isn't always in a straight line when it comes to navigating, when it comes to map reading. There are all sorts of reasons why going in a straight line may not be the quickest route. It definitely may not always be the safest route, but even if it's not unsafe, it can sometimes not be the quickest route. So what I want to do in this video is to give you an example whereby going in a straight line may not be the best choice, and actually by making your journey and your route like slightly more circuitous, you might actually end up saving yourself some time and inaccuracies along the way. I'm going to be introducing a technique called aiming off, and to help me introduce that technique, I'm actually going to get my big fat head out of the way of this camera, and we're going to refer to this wood line that is behind me there. So give me 2 seconds to get around that side of the camera, and let's start referring to that wood line there. So if you look to the front then, you can see some farmland, you can see some meadows. There's actually a valley or a very, very shallow re-entrance in the centre of this photograph, and then you've got a wood line up there on the horizon. I'm just going to annotate this image now with a small yellow circle. That's actually denoting a point where there is a track that enters and leaves that wood line. It's the quickest, easiest way of getting into that wood line by using that track junction there. So that's the point that we're going to take a bearing onto. Now we could be taking a magnetic bearing from here at this point on the ground, or we could be taking a grid bearing from at home on the map and converting it to a magnetic bearing. But either way, we are moving from here where this camera is over to where that yellow circle is on the image, which we now know is a track junction that leads into and out of the woodland. What we could do at this stage is we could take that bearing and we could march directly on that bearing in an absolute straight line to that track junction. If we do that, one of 3 things is going to happen. Either we're going to arrive slap bang on top of that track junction. Perfect. Or we're going to veer slightly left and we're going to end up on that wood line, but to the left of the track junction. And when I say left, geographically it's actually north. This wood line runs north to south, south to north, but for the sake of simplicity I'm just going to refer to left and right. We could end up to the left of that track junction, or we could end up to the right of that track junction. So what I'm saying here is that we have a 1 in 3 chance of landing on our target, and we have a 2 in 3 chance of veering off slightly left or right and not ending up on our target. In other words, the odds are stacked against me, and I don't like that. So what I want to do is I want to even those odds up a little bit, and this is where aiming off can come into play. Instead of taking the bearing directly to that woodline / track junction, I am intentionally going to aim off either on the map or on the ground and take a bearing either to the left or to the right. I'm intentionally not going to take a bearing onto the track junction, but I'm aiming off slightly left, and I take the bearing either grid or magnetic, and I then move on that bearing. I know that when I hit that wood line, I know that I am going to be slightly left / north of the track junction. What I can then do is I can then turn south / to my right. I can handrail the wood line down, keeping it on my left, and I will then end up at that track junction. I can make this even more accurate by, when aiming off with my initial bearing, aiming off a set distance, 100 metres, 200 metres say. So I know that when I hit that wood line and turn right and handrail it along, I need to pace out 100 metres or 200 metres or whatever, then I'll be in that track junction / wood line vicinity. And of course the absolute same principle is still applicable if I were to aim slightly right of that track junction. I would hit the wood line, This time I would turn to my left/north, I would keep the wood line on my right, and I would pace out 100 or 200 metres or whatever until I hit that wood line/track junction. There we have it. There's the principle of aiming off. It's really quite simple when you think about it, isn't it? It's quite a logical thing to do. I think a lot of the time when it comes to map reading and navigating, we are very focused on accuracy and hitting things and being spot on. And I absolutely agree with that. Accuracy is important, but what I've just outlined here isn't inaccurate. In actual fact, it's aiding with your accuracy. It just takes a slightly different way of thinking about marching on a bearing or aiming at something or aiming off at something than what we're perhaps used to in most of our perhaps common everyday navigation and map reading practices. That's aiming off. A little footnote here, it works best, in fact it really only does work, if you are talking about on a linear feature. So that was a wood line behind me. It could be a road junction in the middle of the countryside. It could be a bridge over a river. It could be a ford over a stream. It tends to work best on linear features where you aim off slightly left or right and then handrail that feature a set distance to your actual point. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Is this something that you just do naturally? Is it something you've never heard of and this is the first time you've ever heard of it? Is it something that you've perhaps tried in the past but you've forgotten about? Wherever you are with your use of aiming off as a navigation technique, please do let me know in the comments below, and definitely let me know if it's something that you've never heard of before. If you like the video, if you think it's valuable, if you can see yourself trying this out next time you're out with a map and compass, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you're not yet a subscriber, in this corner of the screen, if you click on there, you'll become, as if by magic, a subscriber. Thanks ever so much for watching. Really appreciate your view times. See you in the next video. Cheers.